all of you within the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association are literally on the front lines, whether you know it or not, of a war within your state and our country. A war of good versus evil, right versus wrong, right versus left. You are the tip of the spear in this fight within your state, and you must continue to do the wonderful things you're already doing with passion, commitment, and vigor. Your fight for campus carry must never waver. Your fight for constitutional carry was won, but you have to remember, depending on who gets in office in the future, they could reverse that. So never let your guard down, and your handgun licensing reform is noble and must continue to be pursued. You must always have a presence at the state capitol and must always be active in electing those running for office that are 100% pro-Constitution. You have already set the standards of Second Amendment leadership within your state. Others are following your diagram. And you are setting an example for other Second Amendment associations and organizations across this country. You are leading by example. And from one American patriot to another, I thank you for your steadfast commitment. Never surrender what you're doing. Continue to bring people into your organization and never quit. Here's an example of how we must stay the course in doing so, hold other accountable for their actions and their words. During a recent speech, Democrat Representative Jerry Nadler left out a key phrase when quoting the Second Amendment, sparking concerns about his motives and grasped the amendment of importance. Nadler notably omission was the absence of the term the people. In his reference of the Second Amendment, this exclusive change the original intent of the amendment, which underscores the personal right of individuals to possess and carry firearms. That was not done by accident. There are claims that Nadler purposely left out the phrase, the people, due to his strong anti-gun position. By eliminating the people, Nadler may be trying to suggest that the Second Amendment safeguards a group right rather than an individual one. Nadler's effort to diminish the importance of the people in the Second Amendment is met with doubt and examination. Critics maintain that his exclusive represents a form of altering historical facts to push a specific agenda, but you all know what that is. Although Nadler may downplay his exclusion as a minor mistake, his introduction of the term, quote, before citing the amendment implies otherwise. It is important to ensure that public officials are held responsible for accurately presenting historical text and constitutional values. Doesn't matter if it's the Second Amendment or the First Amendment or any of the amendments. That holds true right here in Oklahoma, as it does in Washington, D.C., and every state across our land. Bear with me 1 second. Understanding the context is vital when analyzing the Second Amendment, and leaving out essential phrases can warp its significance. By removing the people, Nadler overlooks the complex extent of individual liberties safeguarded by the Second Amendment. While the Second Amendment has been a topic of ongoing discussion for many, many years, its wording is explicit in affirming the individual rights to possess firearms. Nadler's exclusion highlights the need for us to always be watching the efforts of not only what we do, but what they do. Elected officials, such as representatives like Nadler, for instance, have a duty to uphold the integrity of the constitutional principles in their public statements. Transparency and precision in communication are vital for fostering trust and accountability in governance. Representative Nadler's omission of the people from his reciting of the Second Amendment raises doubts about his dedication to protecting our individual rights. And he is a prime example of where they're headed with this. Since December 15th, 1791 to today, June 8th, 2024, 233 years, we the people have bled and died for our Second Amendment rights. Every time America sends its brave men and women off to fight, they take with them their oath to our country. Mine, for example, said, I, Douglas Michael Ducote, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. The oath's wordings has had several changes to it over the years. Some words added, some omitted. And whether you know this or not, this may be the first time you've heard this. If it is, I'm sorry. But now, when you take the oath of enlistment into the United States military, you are allowed to not say, so help me God. But one sentence that has never been altered is, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Our brave men and women take that oath to heart and pledge to protect all of the Constitution, all of its amendments, to include the Second Amendment. Since the Revolutionary War, approximately 655,000 American troops have died in battle, and more than 539,000 died from non-combat related casualties while they were serving. They took their oath to their grave. If that doesn't prove the absolute necessity of Second Amendment rights, as well as the others, nothing does. History shows us that the number one reason that the Japanese military stopped at Pearl Harbor and did not attempt to invade our mainland is simple: the fact that they knew that not only did our military have guns, but they knew that American citizens were locked and loaded as well. And that's historical fact coming from them as to why they chose not to continue to our mainland here. Today, of course, we have the largest law enforcement presence of any country on earth. And the left wing of our society talks about both sides. First, they say, we the people don't need guns because we have the police. Then they turn around in the next sentence and say, defund or abolish the police. Well, that's enough right there to explain the saying, you can't fix stupid. Right. But you can dress it up in a suit and a tie, you can send it to Washington, D.C., and you can call it a Democrat. Amen. That's not saying that all Democrats feel the same way as those in Washington, D.C. I used to be a Democrat. But I woke up. I come from a very long line of Democrats. Some were very crooked and corrupt. I don't know if you've ever heard of Edwin Edwards, who was the governor several times, who also went to federal prison, but that was my cousin. And I grew up running the the White House, of the governor's mansion, doing some things that I will not share here. But the point is, it wasn't until I went into the military that I switched parties. An election came up, and everybody in my unit was voting for Republicans, not Democrats. So I went to my platoon sergeant, and I said, I'm kind of conflicted here. I don't understand what's happening. You know, why all my life, all I've heard is Democrat Party, Democrat Party, Democrat Party. Why is everybody in this unit kind of making fun of me, saying he's not a Republican? He said, I can't tell you who to vote for. I can only tell you this. If you plan to make a career out of the military and do 20 years here, or more, you will find that when a Republican is in office, you have everything you need to do your job, and your job is war. And one day you will go to war. You will find that when Democrats are in office, one of the first things they start cutting is our military budget. And that was the truest words I'd ever heard. I didn't know it at the time. But after serving under Republicans and Democrats, I found that out. It was literally the truth. Then I started, when the internet came out, for the first time was able to really look at the two parties and realize that the party that I was following was knee-deep in racism. And I didn't want no part of it. Growing up in South Louisiana, we were consumed with alligators and fishing and hunting. We weren't consumed with racism. There wasn't really no such thing as that in my age period. I was born in '62, at least not in Louisiana, but it was happening across the country. Wasn't privy to that, didn't pay attention to that. When I went into the Army, I did not know, this is true, I did not know that there were African Americans that were in leadership positions that owned companies, that were high-ranking officials in the military. I didn't know that. It was a shock to me to realize that I was following the party that fought against freeing the slaves, that fought for segregation, that founded the KKK, that not only supported at the time and helped prop it up, but today is still funding Planned Parenthood. And if you look at the history of that, its whole purpose was to destroy the African American race. And yet, many people keep voting for them. And for that, I do not understand. And I switched parties. And over the years, I managed to get everybody else in my family, except for two, that became Republicans when they heard me talk to them about the information that I was able to find out in the facts. Every time there's a mass shooting in America, the left-wing Democrats and liberals start yelling for stronger and stricter gun controls. They want to take away our high-capacity magazines, ban the AR-15, the AK-47, the 9mm handguns, and such. Then they say, we don't want to take away America's Second Amendment rights. But if we did not put up a fight, if organizations like yours did not get involved, I have no doubt that we'd be left, if it was up to them, with 16th century musket muzzle-loading firearms. In a sense, they have already taken away part of our Second Amendment. A lot of people don't look at this aspect of it. A part of our our Second Amendment rights has been completely stripped away. And when I say stripped away, I mean it completely. Our Second Amendment, the right to defend ourselves, is against a tyranny government. The Second Amendment was never intended to be about hunting and skeet shooting. Now today, if one was to attempt to organize a group of people to take back what they think is a government run a rogue, the FBI will come knocking down your doors, and you will be charged as a domestic terrorist. The powers that be now have the ability to monitor everything we do. They monitor our cell phones, our home phones, our emails, unless you're Hillary Clinton, text messages, and so forth. One of the biggest problems we face in this fight is the left's refusal to look at the root causes of these mass shootings, mental health. Or the other problem, locations. They're in gun-free zones. I've had many conversations with these gun control advocates. I'm sure many of you have as well. But I'd rather slam my head in a sliding glass door than have to have another one. You walk away mind-boggled at their ideology in trying to reason with them. Which brings us to the trillion-dollar question: how did we get here? How did we get from a society where kids could go to school with a gun rack in the back window of their pickup truck with loaded shotguns to being expelled if you drew a picture of a gun? How did we go from a society where parents purchased their 12-year-old kids a shotgun to arresting a parent if they did that today? The answer to those questions is very simple. And I've been talking about this on my podcast for years. We allowed, and for the most part unwillingly, far-left liberal educators into our school system to teach our children. They infiltrated it. From kindergarten to college, our children have been taught by the left wing of our society. Now, not all states have this unwanted, unique problem, but look at the school system in places like California, Oregon, Washington State, Vermont, Massachusetts, Maryland, New York, Illinois, Delaware, and that's just starting to scratch the surface. And it's spreading faster than Hunter Biden can lay out a line of cocaine and snort it. Those kids now are adults. They vote. They run for office. And they shape policies. They were force-fed this no-merit ideology of not only are guns bad, but so is our flag. So are alpha males, our military, our police, and our forefathers. How did they get away with this? Simple. Family units fell apart. More divorces in the past 25 years than in history. I know I'm one of them. This made one-parent families, moms having to raise the kids while also working 2 or more jobs. The absence of a dad in the household in many cases, and therefore little to no involvement in their children's school system, much less being a member of the PTA or volunteering for school events. So if the parent is not involved with their children are being taught in school, the school produces entitled little snowflakes that have no moral groundings or values, and they go off into this thing we call life, one step away from what we fought against in Nazi Germany during World War II. Take away their freedom of speech, their guns, and you control the population. President Ronald Reagan once said, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way that we can inherit the freedoms and have known is what we fight for, to protect it, defend it, have it handed to them in a well-taught lesson of how they, in their lifetime, must do the same. And if you don't do that, then you may very well spend your sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in America when men were free. My friends, that generation is right now. Those words ring truer today than any time in American history. You and I must get involved in the school system. We must make our voices heard. And we must vote as if our freedoms depend on it, because it does.
Right.
Forever live these words: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Thank you. God bless you. May God bless this great country of ours, that we work together, if we work together, and we bring more and more people into our organizations and our associations, we can and we will win this battle. It's a blessing to be here. I'm very, very happy I was invited, and I can't thank you enough for what you're all doing. Thank you.